So we are once again at a tipping point. We
Same
must
thing Matt Hancock said, by the way.
act to get COVID back under control and protect the things that matter most to us. In a global pandemic of a virus with as yet no vaccine, we simply can't have 100% normality. Baseline level, what we have called level 0, is the closest to normality that we think we can safely get to without more effective treatments for COVID or a vaccine against COVID. And remember, we are hopeful for both of these developments in the months ahead. Level 0 is broadly comparable to the position we reached in August when the virus was very suppressed in Scotland, but still a threat. At this level, we would be able to meet indoors with 8 people from 3 households, and most businesses would be open, albeit with safety measures in place. Level 1 sees slightly more restrictions. For example, indoor household meetings would reduce to 6 people from 2 households, but there would still be a reasonable degree of normality overall. And I would describe that as broadly similar to the situation we were at in Scotland around mid-September, as cases started to rise again, but prevalence was still fairly low. Now, getting back to level 1 and then to level 0 and being able to stay there is what we are aiming for this side of better treatment or a vaccine. However, levels 2 and 3 are intended to apply at times such as now, when transmission is higher and rising. Level 2 entails restrictions broadly similar to those currently in place just now outside the central belt, so limitations on hospitality and no gatherings inside people's homes. And level 3 is broadly similar to the tougher restrictions which currently apply across the central belt, with much of hospitality being closed completely. There are, however, some key differences. For example, we envisage restaurants being able to open at least partially in level 3. Levels 2 and 3 are intended to apply, if necessary, for relatively short periods of time to bring transmission down and under control. And finally, level 4, the highest level, which of course we would not use unless absolutely necessary, would apply when transmission rates are or are threatening to become very high, with corresponding pressure on the NHS and perhaps the risk of the NHS being overwhelmed.
Oh yeah, like it was at the beginning of the year. You know, there's so much to unpack from this little segment here, from this thin-lipped little tyrant baboon, standing at her podium yet again, repeating the same BS as she repeats every single fucking day, reading from her script, conjured up by God knows who. Of course, we could start at the beginning where they talk about the virus being suppressed, giving credence to the fact that they're trying to make out that their rules worked. We don't talk about the fact that it's a winter virus, if a virus at all. Some would argue it's the flu. I think it's the flu. But nonetheless, even if it wasn't the flu and it was a virus in and of itself, it's still no deadlier than the flu. And second of all, it's a winter virus. And just like the flu, it dissipates during the warmer months, which is exactly what happens. But they took that time to come out and say that they've suppressed the virus. It justifies their bullshit rules. And then she talks about we can't go back to normality until there's a vaccine. And you will notice any video that you watch of her, I know it's a chore in and of itself. I struggle for the most of the time without wanting to rage and spurg out and She talks about normality. It's normality, 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 normality. You're being programmed. This is programming. Because remember months ago, many months ago now, they were talking about the new normal. They don't talk about that anymore. Now they just say to you continuously that we can't go back to normality. We can't go back to normal. They point blank refuse to let us go back to normal. And now apparently it's because we need to wait until better treatment or a vaccine comes around the corner. Then she says something along the lines of, and we hope that this vaccine will come around soon. That's shite. That is to give false hope to the people that genuinely believe her lies. There was not a vaccine coming around anytime soon. Anyone with half a brain would know full well that a vaccine takes years to implement. And if this was a deadly virus, then surely there would need to be a relatively decent vaccine that would need to be rolled out. That could take years. But that's not the point I'm getting at here. This is sustainable sturgeon. This is the same thin-lipped little boot who parrots every UN talking point going, who parrots bullshit about climate change because the UN told her to, or tell her to, bullshits about climate change because Al Gore and the UN told her to. The WHO tell her to parrot BS about the deadly virus that is corona, and the UN, I think I muddled that up there, sorry, and the UN tell her to parrot BS about climate change. She's a puppet. She signed Scotland up to the Sustainable Development Goals in 2015. The same goals that need to be met. Our transformation of our society must be complete by 2030. And lo and behold, what are they talking about now? Our post-COVID recovery. We want a sustainable, a greener, fairer Scotland with a well-being economy. Now, how do we go about implementing all of these transformative changes? We need to trash the country and rebuild it. Because you can't rebuild something that ain't fucking broken. This has nothing to do with the vaccine. That's false hope. This is what this is about. This tyrannical, dictatorial BS ain't going anywhere. It's indefinite now. We were told that this stuff was eventually going to go away. We'd get the virus under control, flatten that curve, protect the NHS, all that crap. Overwhelming the NHS, aye? Like it was last year when they're all dancing around in the TikTok videos. That's what we were told. This would all eventually go away. Now they have created a tier system which is indefinite because you do not know when a vaccine is going to come around. Therefore, this can go on for as long as they need it to. And by the way, if you're not getting the point I'm trying to put forth here, this is for Agenda 2030. Therefore, there needs to be enough time between here and 2030 for the transformative changes to have been implemented. Anyway.
The restrictions at level 4 are closer to a full lockdown. For example, non-essential shops would have to close at level 4. However, even under level 4 restrictions, 6 people from up to 2 households could still meet outdoors. There would be no limit on outdoor exercise for individuals, and we would seek to keep manufacturing and construction businesses open, albeit with safety measures in place.
These safety measures, you know, even the BBC, you know, they did this on the 6th of October. 10 things we've learnt. COVID death figures. And this is in Rainbow Unicorn Land, right? And it says here that the average death for those who died with COVID-19 in Scotland was 79 years old for men and 84 for women. Elsewhere in the NRS report, it showed that life expectancy in Scotland is 77.1 for males and 81.1 for females. So, you know. The report says the age profile of those dying with COVID was significantly older than that for deaths in general. Anyway, let's get down here. It says here that more than 3/4, 77% of those who died were aged 75 or over, and 43 were aged 85 or over. This compared with the overall deaths in 2019, where 63% were aged 75 or 33 were aged 85 or over. Men are more likely to die with COVID. Statistically, this is an odd one. More women, 133, have died with COVID on their death certificate than men, 2,098. However, the report says that males are 1.4 times as likely to die than females. Anyway, it then goes on to say, because I'm kind of going off topic here, most people who died had a pre-existing condition. All of COVID deaths occurring between March and August, only 8% had no pre-existing condition. Of the 92% who did have a pre-existing condition recorded on their death certificate, the most common were dementia and Alzheimer's disease, heart disease, chronic lower respiratory diseases. More deaths in care homes than average. In 2019, almost half of 48% of deaths from all causes took place in hospitals, and quarter in care homes, and 28% at home. In the first 4 weeks of the pandemic, almost 2/3, 62% of COVID deaths took place in hospitals. However, between the 13th of April and the 14th of June, that pattern changed as more than half of COVID deaths occurred in care homes. From mid-June onwards, there have been slightly more COVID deaths in hospitals, although the number of deaths were much lower in this period. Over the course of the whole pandemic, the proportion of COVID deaths has been similar in both care homes and hospitals. So there's a pattern emerging here, if you hadn't noticed. On average, a male COVID death, if you will, is 79. On average, 84 for a woman. More than half, for a good portion of that time, were in care homes, flip-flopping between that and hospitalisations. And an overwhelming amount of these people had at least one pre-existing health condition. We're talking about what they claim is a deadly virus that, statistically speaking, wipes out pensioners. And granted, every life is cherishable. But the flu, every year prior to this, has wiped out roughly the same amount of elderly people year on year. Was it justifiable to do what they've done up until this point from this year? No, it's not. By this logic, we should have shut down the country every single fucking flu season. By this logic, the 2017/18 Scottish flu season, which killed 18,000 plus people, may I add, in a single winter season, did we shut things down then? No, we didn't. Did we shut things down in, I believe it was the 1999 flu season? Forgive me if I'm wrong, it's a year, give or take. Did we shut things down then? No, we didn't. When the amount of people that died then, when those people died in that season, did the season after that, did we decide, well, we can't have that again, let's shut everything down? No, we didn't. It's just ridiculous. So naturally, statistically speaking, younger people are not affected by this because it's targeting certain demographics, the vulnerable and the elderly, or both. Vulnerable and elderly, I mean. So what should we do about this? So this came out, this was last month. Nicola Finlips, Scotland will never adopt an ethically wrong herd immunity strategy. So young people and working age people that could effectively keep the economy going to a certain degree and garner a herd immunity in the process, because they keep telling us that we all get it but we're not affected by it. You know, we might be asymptomatic or we'll get mild symptoms, you know, a fucking cold, by the way, another coronavirus, but we'll play their little narrative down to a T for a second. We could effectively garner up herd immunity, and then it would be safe for everybody else to come out. But that's unethical, according to Nicola Finlips. So as she says, the First Minister said she's aware of scientific advice which backs the policy as a way to bring about a faster return to normality. There's that word again. It would mean that younger people at lower risk from serious health problems if they contracted the virus are allowed to return to work and go about their daily business. As number of infected people soar, so would immunity levels across the population. But older people would be at greater risk and forced to self-isolate to protect themselves. Now, if we'd done this from day dot, this wouldn't be an issue. But they chose to clamp down everything from day dot. The First Minister rejected this approach as she refused to rule out the prospect of a return to shielding for vulnerable Scots and new Scots alike if cases kept rising. The shielding debate for me comes to the heart of a debate about how we deal with COVID as a country. See, we're a collective group here, despite the fact it is targeting a minuscule demographic of people. At that, we're all having our livelihoods destroyed, myself included. Businesses going down the pan. People on fucking benefits because they can't get a job. And for what? What we're doing as a country. Fuck you. This has gone on long enough. This is ridiculous. And I've got a grandparent alive. Of course, I don't want any harm to come to her. But I'd rather there was things in place to protect her, not as shutting down the country. There are people of the opinion right now, including some scientists, and they're entitled to hold these opinions. See, when she says that, because she doesn't hold that opinion, because Bill Gates and Antonio Guterres, that fat UN chief, told her otherwise. You fucking baboon, I hate her, eh? That we should just basically seal off the vulnerable groups of our society and let everybody else live their lives. What, like we were doing anyway when everyone was locked up? You sealed off people in care homes, for example. You wouldn't let people go to see them. But while you did that, you also sealed us all up too. The only difference being we had families potentially around us to occupy ourselves. But what about the people in care homes? What about the people that you made seal that had nobody? People having to go and use their hour allocated exercise time to drop a bag outside a lonely old pensioner's house. People have severely short memories. It's fucking unbelievable. This grandstanding, patronising, virtue signalling BS that she attempts every time she opens that thin-lipped little fucking mouth. And let everybody else live their lives. Live their lives normally. You know, there's that word again. As if, just live their lives normally. Yeah, it's called accumulating herd immunity in order for the people that would statistically speaking be affected by this to then join us later. Why should the entire country suffer? It's ridiculous. We are effectively shielding ourselves and staying 2 meters apart from people next to us, despite the fact even if we contracted said virus, statistically speaking, we'd be fine, eh? I don't agree with that, practically or ethically, of course, because everything's unethical to her. If we don't let in 1 million Hindus every year to Scotland, that's unethical, according to Nicola Dunlop. So, I mean, why should I take it seriously? We can't segregate our lives in that way. We live interdependently. Younger people live with older people. See? So, we can't do that, so we need to shut the entire country down because we're all in it together as one. Yeah, okay. Makes total sense. I don't think ethically it's right either that we expect one group of the population to bear all the burden of dealing with this pandemic. So we all need to deal with the pandemic because there's a certain group of people out there that would be affected by said pandemic. Logic 101. We all have a shoulder. We all have to shoulder some of the burden of dealing with this pandemic. So you need to lose your business. You need to become unemployed. You need to lose everything. You need to lose your house. You need to go into food banks because there's a certain tiny demographic of people out there that we could be doing things to protect, but instead we need to all carry some of this burden for this fake fucking virus. Yeah. This is what's happening, folks, but you're going to vote for it next year because you promised independence, didn't you? Oh, my fucking God, I hate her. I just despise her at this point. I mean, none of it makes any sense. It's just nonsensical bollocks. It says here, I mean, this video's getting a bit long. You know, it says, it's 7 months now since COVID-19 was first detected in Scotland, and like other countries, we faced the first wave and locked down hard to get the virus under control, and look at that work, because Scotland had the 3rd highest death rate anyway, so yeah, you did a good job there, you thin-lipped twat. Recognising the risk that would bring, but also the need to take firm action, we placed our NHS on an emergency footing and quickly redesigned services to ensure our health and social care services were equipped to deal with this so-called pandemic. Local authorities mobilised to deliver new and existing services for the communities and shafting everybody else in the process. And we built our cancerous, divisive, and of course, spy technology that we call Test and Protect that we claim is working. You know, built to protect Scotland Act. Oh, piss off. And gave advice and support to the most vulnerable to the virus. The most vulnerable to the virus, you know, that group that we could be protecting while the rest of us going about our days. We can't do that now. And of course, the virus remains a threat. Our collective efforts and sacrifice to suppress the virus to low levels during the summer. See, there you go again. They keep making out that we together as a collective, we quelled the virus. It's just bollocks. And as I said in the last video I made on this topic, even if that was fucking true, that us locking everything down and following your stupid rules made any blind bit of difference. So we're now going to go for a period of stringent rules. The minute we open up again, it's going to happen again. You are delaying the inevitable. So the only logical and sensible explanation, to me anyway, would be herd immunity. But it's unethical, isn't it? It's unethical. So we're just going to go back and forth, pissing in the wind. And I could read through this bollocks, but I've gone on too long. I've gone on a tangent, but you know, here's it here. Nearly normal. Not normal, no. Not normal, because we don't have a vaccine. We don't have the Billy Boy, big sustainable Bill Gates injecting you with that vaccine. Nearly normal. Indoor meetings allowed, maximum of 8 people. Why not 9? 8's fine, 9 is not acceptable, 7 is preferable. You know, you might be pushing it with 7, but you know, 8 is the rule. From 3 households, not 4, mind you, 3. And realistically, if there's a deadly virus, shouldn't be any. But 3's fine, not 4 households, 2's okay, 3, alright. 15 people from 5 households can meet outdoors. Not 16 people from 6 households. No. Not 14 people from 16 households. 15 from 5 households. And then we've got level 1. 6 people from 2 households can meet indoors and outdoors. So not 7 from 2 households. No. Not 5 from 3 households. 6 from 2 households. Because Nicola Sturgeon has told you. The Queen, the Guru. Then we got level 2, which is high. You're high if you buy this. No indoor meeting with other households. 6 people from 2 households can still meet outdoors. Oh, you can still meet outdoors in hospitality settings, yeah? Not 6... Not 6 people from 3 households, because you might catch the virus. 6 people from 2 households. So not 7 people... No. 6 from 2. Pubs permitted to sell alcohol indoors only with a main meal. So you can't buy a beer without buying a burger. Because you might catch the virus if you buy a beer without a burger. Because Nicola Sturgeon's scientific advice has said so. The science is spoken. The same twat, by the way, who endorsed Greta Thunberg. But we want to talk about that. Very high. Alcohol sales not permitted indoors or outdoors. Restaurants may be able to remain open under strict conditions that Nicola Sturgeon quite clearly set out at the time. And then we've got level 4. What's lockdown? Close to a full-down lockdown of the type that the UK went into at the start of March. End of March, sorry. With non-essential shops because they classify what is and what isn't essential. You know, that's people's livelihoods, but hey, Nicola Sturgeon's told you that they ain't essential. Your nationalist leader has told you they ain't essential. Some outdoor meetings will still apply and schools will stay open despite I keep hearing from little SNP twats that schools are spreading the virus. Strange how that works. And if schools could stay open, why couldn't they stay open at the start of the year? Makes you think. Video's getting too long. I just think this is the most ridiculous bullshit. I don't know. Peace.